The air, thin and cold, tastes of success. The clan of Homo Habilis moves with a purpose that is rare in their world of constant, grinding uncertainty. Between them, they carry the hunch of a cholico there. A prize wrested not through a heroic hunt, but through cunning observation and explosive speed. They watched the sabertron make its kill, waited for the great cat to gorge and depart, and then, in a coordinated rush of shrieks and thrown stones, they drove off the hyenas drawn to the scent. This is their place in the brutal ecosystem of 2 million years ago. The clever thieves, the opportunists. This is a crucial chapter in hominid history. The matriarch leads the way. Her gait is a rolling, inefficient shuffle compared to the hunters who will follow. But her mind is the clan's true weapon. It is in her that the spark of foresight burns brightest. She guides them along a familiar game trail, a narrow artery of packed earth that winds between towering granite kopjes. This pass is the only safe route back to their sheltered cave, their home. But the pass is silent, too silent. The usual chatter of rock hyrexes is gone. No birds call warnings from the acacia trees. The matriarch slows, sniffing the air. She smells dust,
At last, they
rot,
collapse on
and
the
the coppery
grassy
tang
bank.
of their scavenged meat, and something else, something musky, canine, and dangerously close. She halts the clan with a low guttural sound. They freeze, their brief moment of triumph evaporating into pure, cold dread. Then they see them. The wolves are not a pack. They are an army.
This
Dire
raft
wolves,
is
larger and more heavily built
powerful.
than any they have seen before,
It is a leap
emerge
in
from the shadows of the rocks.
story of
One,
human adaptation.
a massive male with a scarred grey muzzle, stands directly in the path. Others flank him, their yellow eyes fixed on the hominids. More appear on the ridges above. They are not growling, not charging. They are simply waiting. They have cut the pulse. They have set a trap. Panic ripples through the small group of ancient humans. Their immediate instinct is to scatter, to flee into the open. But the matriarch holds them with the force of her will. Her mind races, possessing the geometry of the threat. The wolves are faster. The open ground is a killing field. To fight is annihilation. She looks back. The past behind them leads up, onto a windswept, isolated plateau. A dead end, a fortress of barren rock. It is the only choice that is not immediate death. She gives a sharp cry, a command of retreat. The clan scrambles up the rocky incline, abandoning their precious meat in their terror. They do not stop until they reach the flat, exposed top of the plateau. Below, the wolves do not pursue. The alpha male calmly walks to the abandoned haunch, claims it, and settles down, his gaze still locked on the trapped hominids. The rest of the pack spreads out, forming a living wall around the base of the plateau. The clan huddles together, clutching their simple old iron choppers, stones smashed to create a single sharp edge. These tools, the very hallmark of their burgeoning intelligence, feel like children's toys against the patient, intelligent siege that has just begun. The second sun rises on their prison of rock. Thirst is now the clan's primary predator. The small amount of moisture they have leaked from the night minus chilled stones is not enough. Hunger gnaws, but it is a familiar enemy. The absolute lack of water is a death sentence measured in hours. Below, the wolves wait. They are an unnerving, living landscape of grey and yellow fur. Their patience a psychological weapon as potent as their fangs. These prehistoric animals are not mindless beasts. They understand the strategy of the siege. They are watching the hominid's strength bleed away with every passing moment of sunlight. The clan's social fabric, woven from threads of mutual need, begins to tear. A young male, his mind clouded by dehydration, begins to pace near the
The
edge.
journey back is
He points
slow
down the
and
sheer cliff
exhausting.
face,
Each
his
step
frantic
a
gestures
testament.
suggesting a desperate, suicidal descent. Another male hoards the few remaining bitter roots they collected before the trap, snarling when anyone comes near.
Blending with the
This is
murky
the
river.
brutal consequence of
Eyes
their evolutionary path. Their reliance on the group is total. But the instinct for individual survival is a powerful, destructive acid. Their normal scavenging niche has prepared them for quick, violent confrontations over resources. Not this slow, grinding war of attrition. But the matriarch's mind is a different country. Her skull, with its slowly expanding cranial capacity, holds the clan's only true hope. She does not pace. She sits, seemingly placid, her gaze sweeping over the scene below. She is not just watching the wolves, she is studying them. She notes the subtle shift in their positions as the sun moves, seeking shade. She observes how the alpha male settles in the most strategic position, overlooking the only viable path. She watches the wind, seeing how it whips dust devils from the loose scree at the far end of the plateau. She is collecting data, her brain a vessel for patterns the others cannot see. This quiet, intense observation is a turning point in the epic of human evolution. The sky to the west is beginning to bruise, a familiar sign of the afternoon storms that boil up from the plains. An idea takes root in her mind, a concept of terrifying risk and beautiful complexity. It is a plan born of weakness, one that does not rely on their meager strength but on their unique ability to think, to predict, to manipulate the environment. To watch her now is to witness the birth of strategy, to see a mind grappling with a future it intends to create. To watch is to remember. To remember is to carry a piece of the story forward. Join us and become a keeper of this flame, a chronicler of the long night before the dawn. She gathers the two strongest males, the ones not yet lost to despair or selfishness. She leads them to the edge of the plateau, to the large, unstable pile of loose rock. She points to the darkening sky and mimics the rumble of thunder. Then, she points to the rocks and makes a great, sweeping gesture downwards, towards the spot where most of the pack rests. Finally, she points to the far side of the plateau, to the steep game trail they ascended. Her meaning is clear, transmitted through the pure theater of gesture. When the storm's chaos descends, they will create their own thunder. They will unleash an avalanche not to kill, but to distract, to draw every eye, so that the clan might slip away like ghosts in the wind. The storm breaks not with rain, but with a sudden, violent wind. It scours the plateau, a physical force that stings the eyes and steals the breath. The sky is a roiling canvas of charcoal grey. This is the chaos the matriarch was waiting for. This is the moment where the world's superior senses, the wolves' keen hearing, their sharp sight, are muted, leveled by the roar of nature. She gives a sharp, piercing cry, the signal. It is a sound of manufactured panic, perfectly timed to blend with the rising shriek of the wind. This is the essence of primitive technology, not just a tool of stone, but the weaponization of sound, of timing, of the mind itself. The two males throw their weight against the key boulders at the base of the scree pile. For a hard stopping second, nothing happens. The rocks hold, a stubborn geological fact. Then, with a groan that seems to rise from the bedrock of the ancient earth itself, the pile gives way. It starts as a trickle, a few stones skittering down. Then it becomes a river. Then an avalanche of rock and dust. It thunders down the cliffside, a crushing, grinding wave of debris aimed directly at the area where the bulk of the wolf pack had taken shelter from the wind. The effect is instantaneous and absolute. The wolves, startled by a threat from a direction they had deemed safe, are thrown into confusion. They scatter, yelping, their disciplined siege line breaking as they dodge the cascading rock. The alpha male, caught off guard, is forced to leap back, his attention completely diverted by the sudden, violent assault. It is a perfect distraction. The clan does not wait. The matriarch is already moving the others, the young, the old, the terrified, towards the narrow game trail on the opposite side. This is not a frantic flight, but a controlled, desperate retreat. Two figures remain at the top of the cliff, silhouetted against the storm. The two strong males. It is their task to keep the rockslide going, to feed the chaos, to hold the wolves' attention for as long as possible. This is a choice made without language, An act of pure altruism born from the communal logic of survival. They are sacrificing their own chance at an easy escape for the good of the clan. It is a scene that has played out a million times in the long march of human ancestors. A brutal but necessary calculus. As the last of the clan disappears down the path, the two males finally turn to follow. Their escape far more perilous now that the wolves' initial shock is turning back into focused rage. They have bought the future with seconds of their own time. A currency more precious than any to-law weapon. This is how a species, not yet dominant, endures its trials, not only through the spark of intelligence, but through the courage to stand one's ground for the sake of the group. That rockslide was more than a diversion. It was a declaration. It was the moment a hominid mind, for the first time, reshaped a landscape with intent, using the laws of physics as a weapon. This was not the act of an animal. It was the act of a geomorphic force, a conscious agent of change. Every dam we have built, every mountain we have leveled, every river we have diverted has its conceptual seed in that desperate, calculated push. The field of anthropology charts this journey from using a stone, to throwing a stone, to commanding a mountain of stones to fall. This clan of Homo habilis survived not because they were strong, but because they understood leverage, gravity, and the immense power of distraction. They were not yet hunters in the classic sense, but they were masters of a different kind of pursuit, the hunt for a solution. They proved that the greatest tool for survival was not held in the hand, but behind the eyes. Today, we are still besieged, not by wolves, but by challenges of our own making. And the question remains the same as it was on that windswept plateau. Do we have the foresight, the courage, and the unity to see the storm coming and choose the path of the falling rock?